From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting. Originating from the County Administrative Center, located at 1115 Truxton Avenue in Bakersfield, California. Grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation, Kern County's vision is to be a driving force for the world's fifth largest economy. And our mission is to exceed expectations of the communities we serve, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the services it provides. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Okay, board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Peters.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Flores.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
Here.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 25th p.m. meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. First, we'll hear a report from County Council, Margot Raison.
Good afternoon. If I may, first I'd like to say that I've enjoyed sharing this desk with Ryan. I appreciate all your support, and I wish you and your family all the best. Two items. First is that today, after the morning session, your board met in closed session on items 42 through 45, and there is no reportable action. And the second item is that last week at the report out, it was reported, so that would be on July 18th of 2023, it was reported out of closed session that Joshua Champlin was appointed our Director of Public Works effective August 5th, 2023. This report is to make a correction regarding Mr. Champlin's start date, which will be July 29th, 2023.
Okay, thank you for the correction, Ms. Raison. Okay, so now we'll begin by considering the consent agenda, and there's agendas located at the back of the room for anyone wishing to follow along. All items listed with a CA above the item number are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. At this time, I'll read the consent agenda items. Starting on page 2, items 3 and 4. On page 3, items 5 through 7. Page 4, items 8 through 14. On page 5, items 15 through 21. And on page 6, items 28 and 29. And page 7, items 30 through 32. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on any of the consent agenda items? Now is the time. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Motion on consent.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Please cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, that brings us to item number 1, public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Also, the board may take action to direct the staff to place a matter of business on a future agenda. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. Please state and spell your name before making your presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Robles. I am a veteran. 4 months now, I have been bringing you a list of questions referring to our election process and the voting machines. Last week, I received a very uninformative answer sheet to my questions. One question which was ignored was, when are we going to see surveillance cameras on over our drop boxes? That question is still not answered. Another question that was vaguely answered was, how close will the observers be allowed to stand, the election observers be allowed to stand in order to see the signature approving process? Since there was no distance given, may I offer a suggestion? Either allow the observers to use photo sticks on their personal phones so that they can raise them up like that, look over the shoulder of the person that's doing the verification process, and this will not intrude into their personal space nor impede their signature process. Failing that, may I suggest that a surveillance camera over these stations be installed so that anyone can review the process as it is being performed, or later on if they feel the need. Another subject was how many ballots were sent to invalid addresses? The answer was none. Now, I cannot believe that none of the mail-in ballots were not returned as undelivered.
Thank you, Mr. Robles. I appreciate your comments, and
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Supervisor Peters.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to try and answer all those, not being the head of the elections department, but I would like to ask Mr. Alsop, you might remember, wasn't that part of a budget that was brought forward by Ms. Espinoza to install cameras over the drop boxes or to increase the security of those?
Yes, sir. Chairman Flores, Supervisor Peters, there is money in the budget that you have, the preliminary recommended budget that you have approved to install security cameras over drop boxes here in the county. That it was a request of Ms. Espinoza, who is our elected auditor controller. To be fair, I would also add that Ms. Espinoza provided answers to questions from Mr. Robles to him back in May. There was something happened, and either they were lost or the questions didn't ultimately get to Mr. I don't know, but recently those answers to Mr. Robles' questions were re-provided, and I just want to go on the record to say that because Ms. Espinoza is not here. But it's in the budget. It is in your board's budget that you approved, in addition to some other things that, at the request of Ms. Espinoza, we are funding, all to make our elections process more secure and more expeditious, to speed it up. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you for that background. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, and thank you, Ryan, for that update. I remember hearing that last night, so I'm excited about the security measures moving forward and the increased security that we'll have for the public, so thank you. Supervisor Scribner.
Yeah, excuse me, I have a question. Is there, the question that he had asked was how many were sent to an invalid address, and the response was none with a qualifier. It says when a voter registers their address is verified in the elections management system because the address must be precinctable, meaning they are confirmed to be a legitimate address. We send ballots only to precinctable addresses. And so is there a distinction between what he's asking, what he's saying is an invalid address versus an undeliverable address? That's a postal question, but I'd like to know if that's a question that can be answered, because this has been about the third time that he has stated that she didn't answer that question. How many ballots were sent to invalid addresses? She did provide an answer. I have it sitting right in front of me, but is he making a connection between an invalid address and an undeliverable, and is there a distinction? I do not know. So if we can get an answer from Ms. Espinoza, that might help at least check that one off of the list.
We will work on getting clarification on that, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Scribner. Thank you. Thank you, staff. Okay, Any other public comments? Now's the time. Thank you. Please step forward.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Alyssa Reed, R-E-E-D, and I am the newly elected Executive Secretary for the Kern Inyomono Building Trades Council. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself, but also to extend an invitation to you. We are coming up on the end of our 5th cohort of our MC3 pre-apprenticeship program. And I know Supervisor Perez, you've been instrumental in supporting that. And but I wanted to extend the invitation to all of you to join us for that graduation that's going to be held next Friday on August the 4th. And so I have flyers for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Reed.
And so that's all I had. So we look forward to, hopefully you can make it into your schedule to join and support that in workforce development efforts in our community.
Yeah. Welcome,
we'll
and
see you then.
thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Usually when you see me here, I'm here to complain or ask for help. That's not happening today. Today I'm here.
Oh, name for the record. I know you, but name for the record.
Lisa Smith. I'm here today to thank Supervisor Flores, Michael Herrera, and Garrison, whose last name I can't pronounce, for excellent work in my community. Because my husband has lived in that house for 70 years, before West High was ever built, we have a lot of history. And part of that history is an awareness that 2 student walkways were built from Muncie School into the surrounding areas so that students, elementary school students, would not have to walk on Bell Terrace or Stockdale Highway to get to school. My neighborhood connection this morning, who has lived there even longer than my husband, tells me that those were built by the Kern County Sheriff's Construction Office as part of a safety program. Over the years, those walkways have fallen into disrepair and nobody knows who's supposed to do anything with them. 5 months ago, I put in a request for graffiti removal through the city and they told me, not ours, private property. I took these photos to Mr. Flores' office because I'm a teacher and I love those kids, and presented these to Michael Flores, who had a very hard time controlling himself. And immediately when I left his office, he contacted the city, and the next morning it was cleaned up. There is not one of these, but 2. The first one is the Mona Way, the one that runs between Muncie and Mona Way, and that's the before pictures. Yeah, pretty bad, huh? Notice the Taco Bell bag with the handle on it? That's a hidey hole in the wall for exchanging stuff. We don't know what. But County Public Works is supposed to be taking care of that as well. On the second page, the bottom 3 photos, you'll see what it looked like when County Public Works cleaned up the vegetation and the graffiti was gone. On the next page, you'll see the cut through that goes the other way from the school, Stein and Fishering. We have Norteño and Soreño and Eastside Bakers gangs tagging that walkway,
Oh, Ms. Smith,
and it was removed.
your time has elapsed. Can you bring your comments to a close? Thank you.
God bless you for caring the
Thank you.
children of the
And
community.
thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I'll just comment briefly. Our system in the county is report-driven. So I thank you for letting us know, and members of the public that let us know, and all our offices know on a constant basis, because that enables us to go out and abate. So I appreciate you, your neighbors, and the more that comes in, the more we'll be able to tackle. And it means working with the city. We'll do that, whatever it takes, to get these kind of results. And thank you for coming to our board and sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm here to ask for help. Good afternoon. My name is Kern Bassard. I'm a 17-year county employee, currently employed as a legal secretary at Child Support Services and a constituent of District 3. I am here once again advocating for the legal secretary and paralegal classifications. I have heard about first responders and safety from last night and today's morning meetings. I have heard nothing about the staff that supports these positions. Legal secretaries and paralegals provide support to the attorneys to allow the attorneys to have more time to complete their job duties. We all work hard to provide timely and excellent service, as any mishap can cause a delay in all the judicial systems within Kern County. Our positions pay enough that we do not qualify for assistance or discounted services, and we are struggling to meet our basic necessities of life. There is no retention or staffing issues. However, there is a compaction issue of at least 9.5%. It has probably moved up a bit due to minimum wage. Currently, a Step 10 OSS makes $23.44, and a Step 10 legal secretary makes $23.68. I promoted from an OST to an OSS to a legal secretary over 10 years ago, and was above an SOSS by a smidge. Due to circumstances beyond the employee's control and beyond the county's control, this has not been addressed. On behalf of the employees, I'm requesting the county to address these issues in the simplest way possible. I also have an inquiry from an employee who attended last night's meeting, and it was not addressed last night or in this morning's meeting. She asked the question about how the COLA will be distributed through the unions and associations. Will it be equally distributed to everyone as the COLA was this year? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bessard. Next speaker, please. Okay, seeing none. Before I move to member announcements and reports, I don't know, Ms. Bessard, if you want to stay for this part. Does staff want to opine about the COLA, if you're able to, so we can get some clarification?
I'm going to throw it over to our Chief Human Resources Officer, Mr. Brown. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman Flores, members of the board, I was here last night and heard the presentation made by Ms. Martinez from the County Administrative Office. I think the item that the speaker today and the speaker last night is referencing was a line item in the budget that is covering the cost of this year's COLA. So that's the 4% COLA that all of our county employees should have received actually today in their paycheck, and not a future COLA that might be negotiated for 2024. Okay. Hopefully that answers Ms. Boussard's questions and the speaker last night.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, that brings us to item 2, board member announcements and reports. Okay. Seeing none. Brings us to items number 22 through 25, which we will hear concurrently. I'll read those items under the County Administrative Office. 22 is a proposed memorandum of understanding with KLEA Association, providing changes to wages, hours, and terms of conditions of employment. 23 is proposed memorandum of understanding with Kern County Sheriff's Command Association. 24 is MOU with the Kern County Sheriff's Command Association 2. And 25 is a proposed MOU with Kern County Sheriff's Command Association 3. At this time, I will let Mr. Alsop present and start it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to have our Chief Human Resources Officer, Mr. Brown, handle this item.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the board. The 4 items that we're handling jointly with this presentation are all affecting our Kern County Sheriff's Office and our Kern County District Attorney's Office. And I want to recognize our Undersheriff Larry McCurtain and our District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer, who are in the audience today, for representing those departments. It's been a long journey to get to today, but I am pleased to bring these 4 MOUs before you to address recruitment and retention of our public safety employees in the Sheriff's Office and Kern County District Attorney's Office. Kern Law Enforcement Association represents our deputy sheriffs, our frontline deputies, senior deputies, sergeants, district attorney investigators throughout those 2 departments. We are currently in a 3-year contract with them that expires June of 2024. However, due to the circumstances of our difficulty recruiting and retaining deputies, we felt it prudent to enter into negotiations to reopen the contract and revisit salary and other compensation matters. The MOU before you is the conclusion of negotiations between the County of Kern and Kern Law Enforcement and the management bargaining units, Kern County Sheriff's Command Association 1, 2, and 3. And this is all part of a follow-up to our ballot measure that was passed this last November by our voters in the unincorporated areas of Kern County, Measure K, providing an additional 1% sales tax to support vital services within those unincorporated communities of Kern County. And one of the primary reasons that the voters identified as supporting the additional sales tax was to improve the county's ability to recruit and retain public safety employees, specifically deputy sheriffs. We feel that the proposed MOU between the county and these organizations addresses compensation to help us continue to recruit and retain qualified and experienced law enforcement officers within these two organizations. We have, over the past year since Measure K was passed, conducted a salary comparison for our deputy sheriff classification, and we found at that point that we were 8% below the average salary of our comparable agencies, including the city of Bakersfield and our San Joaquin Valley counties to the north of us. The proposed memorandum of understanding before you today seeks to bridge the gap in the total salary comparison and bring our deputy sheriffs above average of those comparable agencies. In addition, we have taken the measure of adding a longevity compensation to the total package to ensure we are doing everything possible to retain those trained and experienced law enforcement personnel that we hire. The proposed MOU includes three additional 3% equity adjustments starting this year, starting July 29th of this month, and an additional 3% equity adjustments in 2024 and 2025. In addition to that, the proposed MOU also continues the progress we've made in allowing for reopeners to address the cost of living adjustments potentially made in 2024 and 2025. The proposed contract includes the longevity package that I mentioned with a 2.5% longevity pay for eligible employees at the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, and 20-year markers of their careers. In combination with the recruitment bonus that your board has already approved for these employees who make a 5-year commitment to Kern County, the total package included in this MOU provides very strong incentives for our sworn law enforcement officers to remain with the Kern County Sheriff's Office and District Attorney's Office for their entirety of their careers. An additional item that we included in the KLEA MOU before you is the implementation of new hours worked definition for calculating overtime, which would begin in January of 2025. Again, this continues your board's progress of reforming overtime compensation, and this is one of the last bargaining groups that has yet to receive that reform. The contract before you for all of these organizations would extend the current contract 2 years and would expire June 30th of 2026. In tandem with all of our efforts that the County Administrative Office, the Sheriff's Office, and your board have done over the past several years to improve recruitment and retention, these MOUs provide Kern County with the best opportunity so far to succeed in achieving the voters' desires of recruiting and retaining public safety employees to the ranks of the Kern County Sheriff's Office and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. The total fiscal impact of the proposed MOU for Kern Law Enforcement Agency or Association is $6.4 million in the upcoming fiscal year, $9.3 million in fiscal year 2024-2025, and approximately $12 million in fiscal year 2025 and 2026. The funding to cover these expenses will be sought from Measure K tax revenue. As I mentioned at the outset, the board, your board members and the Citizens Advisory Committee have reviewed this proposal and have included it within the preliminary recommended budget for this year. The fiscal impact for the other bargaining groups is much less because the bargaining groups are smaller, of course. So Kern County Sheriff's Command Association, that's a mouthful, is $908,000 for this upcoming fiscal year, and the other two items are within the agenda package as far as the costs. Again, all of these costs will be covered through Measure K revenue as budgeted by your board in the upcoming budget and in the future fiscal years. The increases over the 2 fiscal years are caused by the additional 3% increases for all employees within these associations. Again, this is an effort for us to really put our best foot forward and close the gap between us and our neighboring agencies and continue to compete for qualified law enforcement officers to support our residents here in Kern County. And it would be, I would be remiss to thank Mr. Alsop, as this is his last meeting, for all the work that he's done in support of this effort for the last 6.5 years. From time to time, he asks me for a list of all the things that your board and our office has worked on for our law enforcement officers. And what he doesn't know is I keep a running tally of all those items so that I don't have to redo it every single time, because the list is very long and voluminous. To give you an example of all the work that we've done in the last 6.5 years, our entry-level deputy salary, after this has gone forward, will have increased 61%. That's a big number, but it really underscores the difficulty that we're having finding people for this job these days. There's a lot at play with this career field not being as sought after by candidates, and the competitive market up and down the state, up and down the whole country, and even here locally, we're competing quite heavily with our neighbors in the city. So I really I'm excited that we have the opportunity to propose all of these MOUs before you today. We're grateful that the Measure K ballot measure was passed, giving us the opportunity to revisit salary with these bargaining groups. Tim Coffrin from Kern Law Enforcement Association is here, as well as Josh Nicholson, the president of the Kern County Sheriff's Command Associations. With that, we're going to handle these separately as far as voting, but our recommendation is for your board to approve the proposed MOUs and authorize the chairman to sign and direct our Human Resources Division to implement the terms in the MOUs. With that, I'll relinquish the mic, and again, thank you to Mr. Alsop for all your support and work. I know the sheriff's grateful, and our district attorney as well, and your board has been very supportive of our law enforcement employees over the last 6.5 years, and even before that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but I know there might be additional speakers that would like to speak on this matter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Just a housekeeping item. Before I move to public comment on this agenda item 22 through 25, it was brought to my attention there may be some people in the public that wanted to speak under the public presentations of item 1. So let us work through these items, and we'll go back to item 1, and then we'll proceed with 26 and 27. So at this time, I'm going to do public comment for items 22 through 25. If anyone wants to come speak, now's the time.
Good afternoon, board, through the chair. Tim Coffrin, I'm president of Kern Law Enforcement Association. To echo Mr. Brown's comments, it has been a long road to get where we are today. I appreciate the board's effort to approach us on this item. Obviously, we recognize that we were in a contract till next year, and I'd just like to say thank you for the follow through of the promise that when you guys were able to move forward, that you would bring that to us. So on behalf of the 400 plus members that I represent, I want to express our gratitude and appreciation for that. It was nice working with Mr. Brown and Mr. Zervis through this process. Congratulations to Mr. Alsop in your new adventure. Look forward to working with Mr. Zervis in the future. And once again, thank you on behalf of the members of Kern Law Enforcement Association.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coffrin. Okay, next speaker, please.
Afternoon, Board, to the Chair. My name is Josh Nicholson. I'm the president of the Kern County Sheriff's Command Association 1, 2, and 3. And I just wanted to reiterate, thank you again for reopening those contracts. I appreciate the support you guys have given us in law enforcement. I'd also like to give a big thanks to the personnel folks, especially Mr. Brown. This is the first time I've had to negotiate for our union, and he was very helpful in walking me through some of the processes of this. So I greatly appreciate all you guys' help and efforts in this.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring this back to the board for action and comment.
Chairman,
Yeah, Supervisor Couch.
you need separate motions on each item, or can we make one for
Separate.
separate? Okay, I'll move staff's recommendation on item 21. Excuse me, 22.
Okay.
I'll second the motion on to approve 22. I do want to acknowledge the thanks from both you two. I really do appreciate that. This has been a tough road to get here, but the cooperation and the goodwill is really great to see, and hopefully it's going to bear some results very quickly in us filling your ranks. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and second. Please cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, that brings us to 23.
Move approval on 23.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Please cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, 24.
I'll move approval of 24.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Please cast your vote.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
And 25.
I'll move approval of 25.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and second. Please cast your vote.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, so before we get to, thank you everybody for all your work on that. Before we get to 26 and 27, I'm going to reopen public comment under item 1, public presentations. If we missed anybody, now's the time to come up and speak. Okay, maybe not. Okay, well, okay, okay, no worries. Is there Mr. Lorenz in the audience? Would you like to come speak, Mr. Lorenz? We're redoing public presentations if you'd like to speak.
Yes, I would, a public presentation, and Mr. Escudero as well. Would you come up, Richard?
Do you want this back?
Thank you. Let me introduce Mr. Escudero. Let me indicate I've been a former public defender here back in the 70s, so I'm back practicing law again. We have a single issue that we would like the Board of Supervisors to consider and deal with. And let me hand our clerk the press releases we're talking about. And I will not use up too much of my 2-minute time here. Mr. Escudero is the father of a murder victim that was investigated by the Bakersfield Police Department, all properly. The remains were turned over by the coroner to someone who was not a relative in the family. We want to have protocols established, formal protocols. This single issue where the kin is actually notified and investigated. So this is what we're asking. And let me have Mr. Escudero speak to this issue. We have a few minutes.
Okay. Yes, I was reading the newspaper, the Bakersfield Californian, June the 22nd of this year, and I see my daughter's name in the newspaper. And this is June the 22nd. I find that she was shot March the 19th. She passed away in the hospital April 1st. I was never notified by the coroner's office. No one notified me at all. I called the Bakersfield Police Department, and they were very gracious and gave me the information that I needed to talk to the coroner's office. I called the coroner's office, and they said, "Oh yeah, we gave the all the keys and the money and all the identification and the remains to this woman, Teresa Klein." She said she was her sister. And I said, "I know nothing about this Teresa Klein. I do not know her. She is not my daughter. My daughter lives in McKinney, Texas." And she said, "Well, she said she was her daughter." I said, "No." I said, "I am the biological father of Victoria Hampton." And she asked for my identification and how, and so I gave it to her. She says, "Oh my gosh, let me check just a second." She came back about 30 seconds later and said, "Oh yes, here it is in the computer." She says, "Yeah, you're Richard Escudero." Her mother's name is Nancy Carnine Hazel. She lives in McKinney, Texas. And I said, "That's correct." I said, "Why did you give the remains to someone else? It was no relative, no blood relative. I don't know who this woman is." She said, "Well, she said she was your sister." So that was very disheartening for me. And she says, "I'll get back to you next week." Well, I never got a call, and I don't.
We respectfully, we're over our time here, but we respectfully request some thought on this. I think that we involve our county council. We could come up with something like a next of kin here, because it's normally by the probate code. You see if there's a spouse. If there's no spouse, then you see if there are children. The next line would be parents. And then after that, if the decedent has brothers and sisters, you look to that.
Yeah, totally understand.
I mean, that's the way it is. I don't know how this happened, but shouldn't there be published protocol? Because both our Highway Patrol and Bakersfield Police deal with this all the time. Once the coroner takes charge, sometimes, of course, the victim's family want to call the police department, particularly if they have a bond with the victim.
Good point.
So it would be easy if we had a published protocol, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't know thank you for this. I have not opened it yet, but make sure that we have their contact information, and we can forward.
It's all there.
We'll forward to county council.
Very much thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sure. Supervisor Perez.
Can I also just say that we're very, very sorry for what you've experienced? I can't imagine it. I really can't. This is not the appropriate time to continue a conversation. I would be delighted to talk to you as a parent in my office, but it looks like the chair is going to direct this to county council. I just wanted to say that I'm very sorry.
There have been some kind people on this, including Mr. Barrett from the police department. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then still under public comment, any other citizens wishing to address the board? Now's the time. Okay, no, I'm going to move forward then. Okay, so we're going to go back to item 26 and 27. We'll hear these concurrently. Mr. Alsop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to hand this item off to Mr. Zervis to handle today.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this has been something we've been working on for probably well over a year. And so I'm looking forward to making this presentation. I'm going to give you some high-level comments for your benefit and the public's, and then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Brown to go over some of the details. And he's got a presentation covering both of these items. The essential services that our county delivers to residents is provided by our nearly 8,000 employees. These employees range from frontline public service providers, administrative and support staff, management and department heads, all of which are crucial to our ability to serve our community effectively and efficiently. In line with the county's strategic plan to be a model of excellence in managing our business and workforce through attracting, developing, and retaining top talent across our business areas, your board has made extensive efforts over the past years to address recruitment and retention issues within our workforce. This has been accomplished through delivering market-based equity adjustments to thousands of represented classifications throughout our organization, in addition to restructuring our entire compensation system to provide more balanced and regular wage growth. In some cases, such as our frontline public safety positions and hard-to-fill classifications, they've received multiple market-based adjustments during this time frame to remain competitive in what has historically been a tight market. For example, the labor agreements that you just approved for KLEA and the Command Staff Associations build on the work that's previously done by your board to remain competitive in that marketplace. While these efforts were focused mainly on our frontline employees, our frontline providers, our 302 management employees and department heads have been subject to the same changes in the labor market and have largely been left out of our compensation adjustments to date. In fact, the last time our management group at large was evaluated for this type of an equity adjustment was over 15 years ago. The result has been significant wage compaction within our management classifications. Our management employees are an equally important part of our organization, and we must maintain a competitive position in comparison with our counties of comparison to successfully manage our workforce and deliver quality services that the residents deserve. In this continuing effort before your board today are two related items dealing with our managers and our appointed and elected department heads. Salaries for our elected department heads are based on a formula contained within Section 3.08.540 of the Kern County Ordinance Code. That formula factors in only organizational-wide increases and not individual increases particular to a specific department or classifications as compared to their counterparts in the market. The result of that has been some of our elected department heads have become compacted by wage increases provided to their own downline employees, such as attorneys, accountants, and law enforcement officers. In at least two cases, the district attorney and the sheriff, the assistant department heads are currently paid more than the department head. Additionally, these department heads are significantly behind their average pay for the same position in our San Joaquin counties. For example, back in 2011, the sheriff made 2% more than the undersheriff. He now makes 20% less than the undersheriff. Similarly, back in 2011, the district attorney made 9% more than her assistant district attorney. She now makes 4% less. In fact, between 2011 and today, that's been 12 years, our elected department heads have had their pay increase by a cumulative 8.64%. 8.64% in 12 years under this formula, while employees within their departments have seen much more significant increases. For example, sheriff deputies during that same period of time have received 35.38% increase. The assistant district attorneys, 24.37%. The undersheriff, 39.49%. Deputy district attorneys, 26.25%, and senior accountants, 19.51%. And again, that compares to 8.64% with the department heads, elected department heads, due to the mechanics of how the ordinance functions, which has not kept pace with the staff within their departments or their colleagues in our other San Joaquin Valley counties. What's before you today is a proposed ordinance that will bring the elected department heads back into line with their management staff and in line with these counties of comparison. In regards to the appointed department heads, as well as management staff, their salaries are established by resolution of the Board of Supervisors, as opposed to set by formula in the ordinance code. Although not to the same degree as the elected department heads, they have been similarly impacted by this same compaction. A separate resolution is being proposed to address these groups of employees and bring them in line with our counties of comparison and similar classifications across the organization. In total, the proposed adjustments for department heads and management staff average 5.13%. So in total, for 302 affected employees, it's 5.13%. And these proposed actions would not be utilizing any Measure K funding. They would be absorbed by the general funds or the federal or state program funding for those specific departments. This is one of the final kind of capstones to the work that's been done over the past several years dealing with the county's ability to stay competitive within the labor market. Since I've been here over the past 3 years, we have been doing targeted equity adjustments with our represented bargaining units, going through lengthy lists and bringing those before your board for adjustments. We've done all that work and we've completed all of those according to our MOUs with our represented positions. Now that we've seen the impact within our management group and we've been able to evaluate our counties of comparison, we're coming before you with a recommended ordinance and resolution that brings proper balance to our internal organization structure across similar departments and jobs and responsibilities, as well as in relation to what we consider our counties of comparison, which include our San Joaquin Valley counties, as well as the city of Bakersfield where appropriate. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brown, our Chief Human Resources Officer, to speak in a little more detail about the work that's been done here.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores, members of the board. I'm going to start my presentation on this item that you all have the slides in front of you. You know, there's never really a good time to bring this sort of item, but Mr. Zervis kind of underscored all the different work that our office has done for our represented employees throughout the county. Your board has been very supportive of those equity adjustments affecting thousands of our employees, including the items that you heard prior to this item today. But I want to start first with why we are embarking upon this and asking your board for approval of these two items. So number one is straight from our strategic plan to ensure competitive compensation practices are applied and sustained for our workforce. That's one of the markers that will help us ensure that we're being a model of excellence in managing our people and our business and attracting and retaining talent to our business areas throughout our county departments. Number two, we have added several management classifications to try to keep pace with all the different work that's being done throughout our county and throughout county departments, ensuring that we have adequate supervision and management of all those different programs that come before your board on a weekly basis for approval. When you add several classifications to a classification structure, it starts to deteriorate the integrity of that structure. And so this is our opportunity to hope to improve the integrity of our position and salary schedule, make sure that at least for the management and mid-management ranks, that these classifications are pegged with other classifications that have like scope of responsibility and complexity of duties, so that our managers and mid-managers throughout the county understand where they fit within our structure. They may not agree with it, but at least they understand the logic behind why they're positioned where they are. The third is to continue to be able to attract and retain experienced and key personnel within our management ranks. These are the employees that manage all the functions throughout our county departments. That I reflect always back on the pandemic and the work that our managers did during that time to get us through and help guide our line staff and help support our community. And it was really important that we had key personnel within those ranks and that there wasn't a whole lot of turnover within those ranks. So that's another aspect that we're trying to accomplish with this proposed plan. And then the last one is to address any compaction caused by those equity adjustments that you've already approved within the represented ranks, to make sure that we're not just equitable within our own internal schedule and structure, but also within the market as well where possible. There we go. So when we started with this project, we introduced 3 key first principles that we were trying to achieve and be cognizant of. The first one is that we wanted to bring all county appointed and elected department heads at or above the average and median salaries of their comparable positions in our comparable agencies. And like Mr. Zervis mentioned, that's the city of Bakersfield where that's relevant. It's also our San Joaquin Valley counties, all the way from Madera up north to Tulare, just to the north of us. We're hoping to make sure that we're in line with the average of those salaries for our department heads. We also wanted to make sure that there's a minimum of 5% salary differential between levels of supervision. Now, this isn't always possible. There's certain circumstances where key positions, I'll use our investment officer with K-Sarah, that position is really important that we have a qualified person in, so that person tends to rank either at or above the same salary as the executive officer for K-Sarah. So it's not always able to be accomplished, but we want to make sure that where we can, and in the vast majority of cases, this proposal does that, maintaining at least 5% between that. The ideal isn't 5%. The ideal is somewhere between 10 to 20%. And if we are able to achieve that, we're in good shape. And the reason why you want to do that is if somebody leaves, you're able to succession plan and build a bench so that we have internal candidates who are qualified and experienced and are desiring and incentivized to promote into higher ranks. The third first principle is to group similarly scoped classifications at or near their existing salary range. And the reason why we were trying to do that is we didn't want this proposal to entirely break our budget. We still want to be able to afford COLAs in the next coming years and continue your board's progress of providing regular wage growth so that we don't have to do this ever again. And so we looked at this current salary schedule, the span of salary ranges from our top end position, which is our chief administrative officer, all the way down to the lowest mid-management classification. And we wanted to keep positions where we felt it was possible within that kind of salary range without jumping them too significantly. But there are some positions that we felt were far below or far above the salary that it would equate for their position. So those are some first principles that we sought to achieve as we move forward with this project. So the first thing we sought to do was to complete a salary comparison for all of our elected and appointed department heads. The lone exception was your director of airports. There is just no comparable classification within our San Joaquin Valley and the city of Bakersfield to that position. And so we weren't able to complete one for his position. So we did complete that salary study, and again, those are comparable agencies that we use for all of our salary surveys that we conduct for Kern County. We took the span of salary ranges that I mentioned and developed 25 salary grades using those ranges, and each grade, 1 through 25, is 5% higher on the salary range than the other grades. So grade 1 is 5% higher than grade 2, is 5% higher than grade 3, and so on and so forth, all the way down to grade 25. And the reason why we developed those salary grades is reflecting back on that 5% differential. We wanted to ensure that there's some simplicity to this. Each salary grade is 5%. When you break that down into a salary range, that ends up being 10 different salary ranges. So 25 becomes 250 very quickly. So we wanted to make sure that we simplified it as much as possible to 25, and then that gave us the ability to make sure that where we could, a 5% differentiation between grades in salary. And then from there, we assigned the 176 unique management and mid-management classifications to one of those salary grades. That item is attached to the resolution. You'll see a listing of all of our mid-management and management classifications. and the proposed salary range and salary grade that we're proposing as part of this action. For our elected officials, they're paid on a flat biweekly salary, so they do not have a salary range. But what we did was put them in line with one of our salary grades at that top step. So for example, your sheriff and district attorney are equivalent to the top step of grade 3. The assessor, recorder, auditor, controller, county clerk, treasurer, tax collector are equivalent to, I believe, grade 7 at step 10. And we felt like that was the appropriate way to accomplish pegging them to a specific grade. They'll still be paid on a flat biweekly salary, but it'll be at that step 10 level. So the results of our salary comparison, what do we find for our department heads, elected and non-elected? So our elected department heads were somewhere between 3.76 and 21.2% below the average salary of their comparable positions. Our 8 appointed department heads are below the average salary. We have 8 appointed department heads below the average salary of their comparable positions, but nearly all of our department heads were below the 75th percentile of their comparison agencies. And what we've found for probably the last couple of years is out of those agencies that we look at, Stanislaus County and San Joaquin County tend to be at the very high end of our salary range or comparison range. Tulare starting to move up higher. We're either at or below the average in a lot of instances. Some instances we're just above that average, but our future goal is to get to that 75th percentile. We feel based on our size and scope of work, the number of employees that we have here in Kern County, San Joaquin and Stanislaus are good targets for us to try to reach. We won't always be able to achieve that because it costs money to do that, but that is something that we're kind of focused on for future efforts. At this point, I wanted to share a different chart with you. I'm going to ask the clerk of the board to move to the document camera so that I can walk through specifically how this action here affects our elected officials and gives you a little bit more detail. So we prepared a chart for your board to really drill down on the 5 elected department heads and where they've been at for the last 12 years. We went all the way back to January of 2011. I believe that includes all of our elected officials with the exception of our sheriff who was elected in 2006 and began his term in 2007. But all of our elected department heads have started serving after that time. But even before that, this really goes to show you how that ordinance dictates the wage growth over time. So as Mr. Zervis mentioned, between now and January of 2011, our elected department heads have only seen their wages grow 3 times for a total of 8.64%. So that's the current column there versus the 2011 column. And even for a stretch of 9 years, our elected department heads and you yourself as board members did not see any wage growth during that time period. So it really gives you an example of even when we are able to provide wage growth for our employees, it doesn't trickle up to our elected department heads on a consistent basis. And this really also shows you where those 2 department heads, specifically our sheriff and our district attorney, fit within their management ranks underneath them, directly underneath them. Right now, our sheriff is 20% below the undersheriff and 2% below the chief deputy classification, which is the next rung of level down of supervision. And as Mr. Zervis mentioned, our district attorney is 4% below the assistant district attorney classification, and that's as of July 1st, 2023. So the increases that we're proposing today are trying to rectify this situation in front of you, but also get us to a point where we're competing with our comparable agencies and our salaries are equitable in that regard as well. So the proposal, may seem pretty sizable for some of our elected department heads, but really we're trying to achieve two things. One is to address this issue and make sure that our department head positions are paid at a rate that's comparable to the labor market, but also internally giving enough spread between themselves and their assistant department heads to incentivize, again, career development, career opportunities. If those elected department head positions become vacant, we want to ensure that we have the best qualified candidates continuing to seek office in those positions like we have. Kathy, could you go back to the thing? So that really brings us to the final slide here. What we're proposing today before you, again, accomplishes that first principle of bringing all of our department heads elected and appointed above the average and median salary of comparable positions. By introducing the salary grades and assigning classifications that are similar in nature to the same grade, we're able to move our non-department head managers between 1% and 22.7% increases in wages. There is one exception, as I mentioned, kind of alluded to earlier, where one classification salary is just significantly higher than where there's scope of responsibilities and complexity of duties lies. And so we're proposing that one classification be assigned to a grade which will cause a Y rate for that person, an individual. But we tried to not do that as much as we could with this proposed adjustment, but we really felt like that one position was an outlier, significant outlier that we had to address with this action. Again, as Mr. Zervis mentioned, the average adjustment across all these classifications is 5.1%. The total fiscal impact of the items is $2.6 million. It's about $1.2 million in the general fund and $1.3 million, or actually $1.4 million in the general fund and $1.2 million in non-general fund resources. The item for the elected officials is roughly $285,000 of that amount, and the two actions before you today are a proposed ordinance amending Section 3.08.540 of Chapter 3.08, which is the section related to our elected officials' salaries. We're proposing an amendment that not only will reset the elected department salaries at the amounts we've identified in the board letter and the ordinance itself, but will continue to ensure that those department heads remain at least 5% above their assistant department head if other salary increases are affected in the future. Again, we're trying to encourage that separation to incentivize people to run for these full-time offices when they become vacant. They're very important, as you know, managing the sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, our auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector, and assessor's office are very challenging jobs, and we want to make sure we continue to get great candidates like the ones we have in office in those positions. The other item is a resolution that's proposed adopting the new wage structure, which includes 25 salary grades and also the assignment of each classification within the management ranks in that salary grade. Those would take effect July 29th, and that's this Saturday, the pay period that begins this Saturday, if approved by your board. There are a couple other items in the resolution that we're seeking to address. We are proposing to eliminate a certification pay for a couple of classifications in our auditor controller's office. We are continuing to revisit certification pay in the future, but at this time we felt like the positions in that those management classifications no longer utilize that certification in their current duties. So we're proposing to eliminate that. But when all is told, those classifications will be receiving an increase even above that certification pay amount. It's incorporated into their proposed increase. The other last item that's included in the resolution is to ensure that our undersheriff, who supervises our chief deputy sheriffs and the sworn law enforcement below that rank, have all of the longevity pay that is available to those other management positions within the sheriff's office and non-management positions, to ensure that we continue to see good qualified people move up in the ranks and lead that department like our current undersheriff has done. Ensuring proper succession planning is all a part of personnel management, and this action would help in that regard. The proposed resolution, as I mentioned, would take effect July 29th, and so we're asking your board to approve it and adopt the resolution. The proposed ordinance has to go through the ordinance process, which would include today's action, which we're proposing a waiving of the reading and an introduction of the ordinance. If your board does that, it would come back for a second reading on August 8th, and if approved at that time, it would require 30 days to become effective. So the proposed salary increases for the elected department heads would not take effect until September 9th, which is the beginning of a pay period as well. I believe that it concludes my presentation. We're recommending, again, your board's adoption of the resolution and also the waiving of the reading and introducing the ordinance. And we're happy to answer any questions. I know Mr. Zervis is available as well, and Mr. Alsop if he needs to.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for that extensive overview and all the research that went into that, and to position our county to be competitive moving forward and serve the people that we serve. I had two quick questions, and I think Mr. Zervis answered it, but I want clarification. The $2.6 million ongoing cost to the general fund, it's half to the general fund? Is it half state and federal? What's the split?
It's roughly half. It's 1.2 to the general fund and 1.1, I believe, to the other funds.
Thank you. And then thank you, Mr. Zervis, for that clarification. And before we go to public comment, for Mr. Brown, thank you for the rigor that I saw. I did have a question in terms of optimizing the counties of comparison. I'm a layman, I'm not an HR director, but it doesn't make sense. Why are we comparing ourselves to Tulare or Kings County or Madera for that matter, these small rural counties? Fresno makes sense, Stanislaus makes sense, San Joaquin makes sense. Should we look at Riverside? Should we look at other counties, San Bernardino? So we're having an optimal comparison. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Chairman Flores, we have had different counties of comparison in the past. We've changed twice since I've been in this position. The most recent change, adopting the San Joaquin Valley as our comparison. What we've seen is without cost of living adjustments, besides the last 2 years, we've fallen significantly below the market. With any salary comparison that this county does or my counterparts in other counties do, you have a mix of different types of counties and agencies that you look at, so it's not always the same size. We tend to use the counties that are close locally because it reflects a consistent cost of living in all of those counties. So
okay, so it's a regional. So it's a link to regional cost of living index.
Yes, it makes it easier to compare apples to apples. So a person in my position working in San Joaquin Valley, which has a similar, or San Joaquin County has a similar cost of living, you can compare like versus like very easily. And what we've seen is, those counties, despite them being small, are still having salaries rising above ours. So we're trying to, again, take the easiest, the quickest approach to move up. But counties like Riverside County, they have vastly higher number of employees than Kern County. I think they're close to 30,000 employees. Totally different cost of living structure there. They might be the same in size of county, but geographically, but they're very different. Even San Bernardino, we've reviewed those before too as well. So typically we look at proximity, location, because of the cost of living factor, but also size of our workforce and size of our county as far as the number of residents.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for that rationale. That's very appreciated. Okay, so we'll go to public comment at this time. Any public comment? Now's the time. Please make your way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Flores and Supervisors. My name is Rebecca Vaughn, and I'm a resident of District 1. On April 18th and 25th, I made presentations laying out the pay disparity issues with 4 county fiscal management classifications. Your CAO and HR officer stood before this board and said a market study would be done for all managerial positions, and because it was a monumental task, would take until the end of September or later to complete. Upon further examination and a discussion held with Devin Brown, market equity studies were only done for the department heads, elected officials, and my position because I spoke up. I was told that a study of all positions would be too time-consuming. With this agenda item, the positions I had questioned on numerous occasions have now been placed in an arbitrary grade, relegated to the bottom 25% of all management positions. In addition, please note, a number of the positions receiving increases with this item already received equity adjustments since January 1st of 2022. The market comparable positions listed on the market equity worksheet for the division director position were from smaller counties, such as Madera, which only has a population of 159,000, and it did not include Fresno. Also, they are lower level or subordinate positions based on the job descriptions. I had not requested a pay comparison to be done outside the county, but rather align with the other county positions already doing the same or substantially the same work with comparable qualifications. Please don't get me wrong, I'm grateful to receive any increase, yet compensation for these positions are still 30 to 38% below the other ones doing the same work. On face value, this is punishment to the affected staff, who I apologize to for me speaking up about it. A deeper dive shows this action really seems to be something like retaliation. One final note. I realize you, as board members, must rely on your CAO and HR officer, what they present to you. And rely on that. I know me speaking today won't change the outcome for this item, but please take a strong look and work with County Council to ensure these unfair practices are mitigated.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please. Okay, last call. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for comment, questions, and motions.
Just real quick, Chair. Rebecca, thank you for being here and for your devotion to clarity and for not backing down. I think that's important. I don't know what the truth is or I'm not an expert in these matters, but I have every confidence that we're going to work towards a good outcome. But I don't think it's easy for you to come down here and do this. And I just want to say thank you. I think it's good government, and I'm confident we'll work through it. But I appreciate you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Perez.
I'll make a motion on staff's recommendation.
Thank you. This is for item 26, yes. Okay, have a motion? Just need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Please cast your vote.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Brings us to item 27 now.
Motion on staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Motion and second. Please cast your vote.
Motion is approved. All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for that. Okay, that brings us to adjournment. Having no additional items to consider, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to August 8th, 9 a.m.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
Are counseled, assigned to a relief, issued Tomb Guard uniforms, and dubbed Newman. Newman assists the reliefs in preparing sentinels prior to guard changes, work on building and maintaining uniforms, and are given more knowledge to study. They're constantly evaluated and endure 3 more tests before earning the privilege